Hey folks, I'm Papa Boris. Let's do one more game of Altered here, the free beta available on Board Game Arena for a limited time. I'm going to pick my current favorite deck, which is Yzmir. This hero, unlike basically all the other ones, does not add stats to your board. They don't put out a token or give something a boost. Okay, this one's kind of weird. Or give a free token or get a free token. What she does is every other round when she's the first player, she can basically tap to make the other person go. So you're always going last, and it's pretty cool. You trade some quantitative benefit for the qualitative benefit of seeing what your opponent's going to do. This is a pretty popular one. This is sort of the nature hero, so the first character they play gets a +1/+1/+1, and this faction also has anchored cards, which means that they don't immediately go into the reserve. They stick around for one round first. And that, obviously gives you extra value with your free token. Okay, so we're seeing a new faction here. Time to think about our first turn. So this is a 3/3/3 when played from the hand, and then later it's a 1/1/1. So very, very simple card, but I like one-cost cards, and this is the only way I can spend all of my mana, so I'm definitely going to keep this. This is a really strong card because if your opponent goes all in on some big thing, and this character might with their tokens, being able to send it to the reserve is very strong. I'm just not sure I want to keep that in my opening hand. We also have this for removal, and it's cheaper. So I'm going to actually send my 5 card into mana. This thing is a curious card. It's fleeting, so it doesn't go to the reserve. You can get rid of a card from your opponent's reserve, and then you also put a card into your reserve from your deck. I don't think I want to screw around with that, and I don't think I want 2 of these disruption spells, so we'll try this. There's a case to be made I shouldn't have kept any of my disruption spells, because I'm not going to be using them anytime soon, but I've got this to play with all my mana for the first turn, and, hopefully I draw into some stuff I care about playing. All right, so what the hell is this? Oh, each player draws a card. You got your boost from your hero, and it's a little bit big for its mana cost. Okay, makes sense. So I'm not gonna be able to beat that 4. I'm not gonna be able to tie it even to stop my opponent. So what I'm gonna do is just play it really safe. Oh, I got a 1-cost creature. Interesting. So I could actually play this and this instead of playing this. Do I want to do that? Well, these two together in this lane accomplish absolutely nothing. I don't move, and I don't stop my opponent from moving either. So I might as well spend my mana efficiently over here, lock in my companion. I'm hoping with 1 mana they can't beat a 3 in anything. That would be kind of wild if they could. Okay, they pass, and I pass. This is a pretty standard opening. My opponent moves, and I move. They didn't play any anchored cards, probably didn't get them, so I'm lucky in that regard. So we're kind of tied. My opponent didn't spend their mana as efficiently as me, which, doesn't have immediate benefits, but it does mean that they might have cards in their hand that they're going to have a harder time playing. Okay, so we drew 2 cards. What's going to be mana? I could keep that and get rid of this. I mean, it is annoying that they get these outside stats for just 2 mana, but on the other hand, I'm drawing cards off of it, which is fine. I think I'm just going to get rid of this. I don't like fleeting cards if I don't have a really clear vision for what that fleeting card is going to accomplish or how it's going to help me. My opponent, okay, I'm going to scroll out so we can't see their hand fully. We can still see their reserve, and you can see over here that what their hand size is. So they've got 4 cards currently. Okay, I'm going to actually scroll out of the way of their reserve as well. We'll just remember that's there because I need to be able to see my cards. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is use my hero power. So I'm going to make my opponent go, and I want to see how they're going to commit their mana before I decide what I'm going to do with mine. Okay, so they paid 2 mana to play their reserve card, so they're going after card advantage. Oh, right, this is the hand symbol, so we don't draw a card. I was incorrect. We don't draw a card, they just get their outsized stats for only 2 mana. Huh, maybe I should have gotten rid of that. That seems pretty good. Okay, so now they have 2 mana left. I'm basically hoping for a repeat of the previous round. I would really like to just advance 1 and they advance 1 and call it a day. So what I'm going to do here is play this water card. And what I'm hoping to do is to intimidate my opponent with this big water stat, and maybe they'll pass? And maybe I can play this to send this back. It'll be going out of the board because it has the fleeting token. So when it says send to reserve, but they're fleeting, they actually disappear. They go to the graveyard. And then maybe I can advance one and they advance none. Although maybe it would have been smarter. Yeah, it would have been smarter to pay one of my 1 costs. Because if I play a 1 cost card, I could then play another 1 cost card and this, and then get presence in both lanes. So that was a misplay. All right, they're playing a spell. Target character with hand cost 3 or less gains anchored. Okie dokie. Yeah, we're not gonna do that. So you can just go away. Your 1/4/3 can go bye-bye. And even though it has anchored, it still goes in the graveyard. Because what anchored means is it doesn't go off the board. But it had fleeting, which meant that if it does go off the board, then it's discarded forever. So notice I should have played a 1 cost card over here. If I'd played a 1 cost card, I could now play another 1 cost card and win both lanes. So I did make a misplay there. I'm still getting ahead. I'm moving 1 and my opponent's moving none. But I would have gotten more ahead. Also, notice my card disadvantage here. I am now forced to discard something. I'm actually going to discard this, even though it has more actually, no, hold on. I would have discarded this despite it having more stats, so I can keep a 1 mana card as a kind of delay card. However, I have a 1 mana card in hand. So I think what I'm going to do is get rid of this, even though it has the bigger stats, and keep the 1... Oh, I did it backwards. No, I wanted to discard my 1 because I needed the bigger stats. Oh gosh, okay, that was silliness. All right, well, we got another Lady of the Lake, which is nice. Since I kept the 1 card in my reserve, I think I am gonna get rid of the 1 card from my hand. This thing has a little text on the bottom, so if you're sitting in the reserve, you can actually discard it to make your next spell cost 1 less. That is nifty, but I don't think I'm gonna worry about that too much. I don't have any spells at the moment except for this one. And I don't see a world where like this is sitting there and I discard it and then play this out of the reserve. So we're just gonna get rid of this for our mana. Okay, the game plan now is don't fall too far behind. So my opponent does have this, which gives card advantage because it gives them anchored onto something. This thing comes with anchored already. It's a 1/1/1 with anchored, and then with their hero power, it's a 2/2/2. So it's gonna sit around here for a while, and I don't really want to spend 4 mana getting rid of it. So what I'm going to do here is kind of bide my time. We will just play this over here. And, my opponent needs to do something. So they have 3 mana. What are you going to do about the fact that I'm threatening to win this area with, basically no stats? And we'll see what they do. I might be able to get rid of it with this if they play something expensive. Okay, it's just a 3/1/3 for 3 and then 2. Okay. So how do we approach this? Well, I could, of course, make it go away. The problem with that is it's going to go to the reserve. And then this doesn't go anywhere because it's anchored. So that doesn't really cause any kind of a problem for them. I will move 1, they will move 1, and they'll have 2 cards in the reserve. I'll have none. And they're still going to have this on the board. I could make this go away to the reserve, then this will also go away, but the problem is then they move and I don't, because they are beating me, obviously, and I would need to beat them on forest or desert. Unfortunately, we're tied on desert, so that would not make me move. Now, another option is I could actually play Lady of the Lake here, tragically, because she's a 1/1/3. I don't stop my opponent from moving. I would just mean that we both move here, and then my opponent also moves here. That seems foolish. However, I could play her and one of these guys. That would stop my opponent from moving while I also move. Is that logical? Well, if I play them both, then I'm going to end up with 3 cards in my reserve. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, and the other thing is keeping this in my reserve is a kind of pressure. It might, like, suppress my opponent from making plays, but then I would have to get rid of one of these from my reserve, which I don't like the idea of. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Okay, we're going to go for the long game, the card advantage. We're going to get rid of this thing. We're going to make sure that we both move. And I'm just hoping I can keep the progress going. Because right now, there's 4 empty spaces between their tokens, only 3 between mine. I did get ahead that one time. If I'd played correctly and had gotten this hero token to move, that would be really strong here. Alas, I did not do that. You can discard her from the reserve to make the opponent go after you. So you could potentially do that twice in a turn. I think I'm going to get rid of one of these. I don't think I need 2 of them. And I mean, I'm definitely behind. My opponent has 3 cards in hand and 2 in the reserve, and this thing is sitting here. I just have 4 cards in hand. So I'm behind on the board, and I'm also behind on cards. So it's a tough situation. I'm only 1 movement ahead of them, but I'm significantly behind on card disadvantage. So what I'm hoping is that my opponent at least has to spend some of their cards to, you know, get ahead of me. Okay, that was a smart play. They spent only 2 mana. They got a lot of stats for it. So I got to decide what to do. I think what I'm going to do here is just play something cheap. Do I need to play my 1? I mean, I got 3, 5, 6, kind of like that, or 3, 5, 6. So either way I'm playing this, and either way I'm playing this. I don't think I need to show my opponent where I'm committing my mana. So we're going to just drop this thing there and see what my opponent wants to do. They could, of course, play this and make this thing anchored. That actually might be what I would do. That keeps the cards in their hand, plays their cards efficiently. They decided to play this. So it's just 3/2/2 for 3. And they have this discard ability from the reserve. Interesting. So it does mean they're going to have to discard from the reserve because they're going to have 2 cards going back, and there's already a card there. But of course, they might be thinking, well, how are you going to advance? So I need to beat a 4, basically, in order to advance. I can beat a 4 with Alice here. The issue is that playing something else just to bide my time doesn't really make a lot of sense, because I need to beat on forest or water here, which is actually makes this card very good for them because their weak thing is desert, and it doesn't matter for me to beat their desert. I think this is a case where you kind of need to just show your hand. Oh, but this thing doesn't actually even win this lane. I should have played this Studious Disciple over here, so I could have pounded the lane with Alice, beaten them on water. I should have predicted they were probably not going to, you know, put more stuff here. Okay. So if I go here, I can tie on water, but I'm not actually going ahead unless I play something else. But same problem over here. 4, and I'm only tying on water. So I'm going to have to play both cards to move. The question is, do I want to play both cards to move this turn? That would give me card disadvantage because I am going to have 3 cards going into my reserve. I think not moving is just unacceptably bad. So we are going to go. The question is where? I guess we'll try it here. I really wish I'd played my Disciple in the other side. If my opponent has some like 1 mana Junker that adds water here, I'm going to be in some trouble. Okay, they passed. All right, so I'm going to go for it. We're going to enter card disadvantage in order to move. My opponent is moving twice because they won both lanes, but at least I'm moving here. So my opponent made up lost ground. I am going to have to discard something. So is my opponent. They have 2 cards in hand. I have 1 card. They also have this ability which they can play without spending mana. Okay, it's a bit of a scary situation here. So my strongest stats are water, but this is a desert region, so I can't really win my companion side. However, I could get my hero to move. Oh, I need to discard something. I think I'm going to get rid of... These don't have any... Oh, this can be discarded for an effect. Okay. I'm going to get rid of the Studious Disciple. I know it costs 1 and there's value in being able to, you know, kind of spend a small amount of mana and make my opponent go, but I need the stats to make sure I can actually move my hero. A major concern here is that my opponent beats me on desert in the hero, because I don't have very strong desert, and then also drops some junk over here and makes their companion move. It's going to be difficult for me to move both. Now, I did draw Dorothy Gale, so if my opponent charges up one big enemy or one big character, I'll be able to nudge him off. What is mana? That's tough. I got a lot of water. I think I'm going to get rid of this Alice so we can keep something cheap around. So I could play this and Dorothy. Of course, it's inefficient. I'd rather play Lady of the Lake and Dorothy. But my opponent might not give me a good target for Dorothy because my opponent is, you know, playing this sort of boosty sort of thing. We'll see what they do. You have to be careful a bit with this thing, the after you, because you are just kind of throwing the card away for something the opponent would have done anyway. So if the qualitative value isn't significant, it's not really worth doing. I think what I'm going to do here is just play kind of stupid. Well, I could go here and like tie it on desert. Feels kind of pointless because I'm not contesting water. They have 2, this is only 1. So they would still be moving. Their companion is in water, mine is in desert. So I'm not moving, they are. Seems kind of pointless. We're just going to go over here. I mean, I could try to block their water by putting in Lady of the Lake. That might have been an interesting move. But the problem is then I'm not moving and they're not moving. I think I would rather move and they move than the reverse. So what I'd love to see is for them to play like some big, stupid 5-mana doofus that I can send away with Dorothy Gale. That would be great. Oh, I messed up. I shouldn't have played this because now if I play Dorothy, then, yeah, if I play Dorothy, then I end up having to throw stuff out of my discard. Okay, we have a 3/2/2, just a regular old 3/2/2. They decided to just play it. That's perfectly reasonable. I think we're just going to go here. I mean, I could actually go here. I would then be... Oh, right. I'm beating them on water, but I'm not moving based on water. I'm in a desert region. Yeah, we're just going to do this. I don't want to fall behind on cards by putting Dorothy in. I should have played the Lady of the Lake first, not this Stargazer, so that my reserve had an opening in it. Then I could have played Dorothy and maybe, for example, gotten rid of this Muna Druid. All right, Nurture. Up to 2 characters each gain 2 boosts. Ooh, that's really strong. And it goes into their reserve. Oh, no. Okay. Well, let's see. They're heroes in a desert region. So what I think I have to do here is just go all out. We're just going to completely ground pound this zone. So what happens now is that they are losing to me on desert. I'm beating them on water. So I'm going to move my hero. I didn't contest the companion, so they're going to move their companion. And it's a very similar situation as to the previous. I think I'm probably going to lose this game because we're an equal amount of space apart, but they have an extra card. They have this very, very, very strong spell in reserve. And they also have this thing sitting out here that now has a bunch of stats on it. Okay. So I could get rid of this card with the Sabotage. I've also got this thing. It's a very fun one. It's a 4/4/4 for 7. You're pretty much not playing anything else that turn, but it does allow you, it does like push back their thing. So it kind of buys you some extra time. And then there's Dorothy. I mean, I could try to go for a big swing with Dorothy. Do I want to make mana? I'm just going to not make mana here. It's a little bit risky, but I feel like I'm in some trouble. So let's just not make mana. What I'm hoping is that they play a minion. Sorry, it's a technical term is character. That they play a character, then cast this spell, and then I can Dorothy this thing off. That's what I'm hoping for. So I'm going to make them go first. Now, they might not do that because this is a 4/4/4. It's already just sitting here. They might not want to, like, buff it even more. It's fleeting and whatever else they played. This is a very strong card because not only does it give 4 total power, but coming out of the reserve, it only costs 2, which is incredible value. Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. Okay. Well, so they got this gigantic-ass thing. It's anchored. And, yeah, it's just it's a huge problem here. Huge problem. So I could just go crazy, but this thing's stats don't even win me a lane. I probably should have just played this for the mana, honestly. So I could play Spycraft get rid of this, but it's also kind of like counterproductive because I want my opponent to play this, and then I want to get rid of this thing. Or maybe this thing. Good lord, it's just bad no matter how you slice this pie. Okay, well, what I'm gonna do is play this here for one, and then again just kind of see where my opponent wants to commit their mana. They still have 2 cards. They could very easily play something for 2, which they did, and then still have mana left for this nurture. So now I cannot delay Dorothy. I don't have anything that costs 1 mana, unfortunately. And if I play anything else, yeah, I am in just a heap ton of trouble. So what I'm gonna do here is just play Dorothy over here. It's a terrible, 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 terrible situation. So this goes to the reserve, but my opponent still has 2 mana to contest me here. And as long as they can generate more than 3 desert off of 2 mana, okay, that's not the easiest thing in the world. Their hero will move, their companion will move, and they will win the game. So a good play on my opponent. I did make a crucial misstep. There was that very first turn where I played a 2 mana card instead of a 1 mana card, as a result of which my hero didn't move. Had my hero moved in that turn, I would have eked out a win, getting my hero to move on to my companion this round. But instead what happens is both I and my opponent are now going to be 1 movement away from each other, but my opponent has, well, I guess my opponent doesn't have card advantage anymore, but they have very strong plays in their reserve, and they also have 1 extra mana. So that is definitely an advantage for them. So I know what I'm gonna do. I'm definitely gonna play this for mana. I'm pretty sure that it would be really just silly not to. I don't see myself playing more than 1 of these this game. Like maybe I'll play it this turn. The issue is that unless my opponent commits this with their first turn, they can tie me with this thing. Oh no, it's a 3/3/3. Right. Okay. They can, like, with this they get 5/5/5. So if I play this, they can play these 2 cards in the exact same lane, beat it. And then they just need anything with the remaining 3 mana in the other lane, and then they move both their characters and they win. So I don't think I'm going to be playing 2 of these. I don't think I'm going to be playing 1 of them. I probably should have just put the other one into my mana pool last time. All right, well, my opponent's going first, so it's time to see what they do. My strategy is very simple. My opponent knows that I have this Dorothy here. This one, you know, for 5 mana, I'm going to be sending a character to the reserve. So they know I have it. So they know as long as I have 5 mana to play that I can do that. Unfortunately, because I didn't generate mana last time, I can only play 1 card before I have to play Dorothy. This thing is terrible because it has 3 water. None of my things are in water. So what I'm actually going to be doing here is the rather underwhelming Spycraft. We're going to get rid of this because this thing is just evil. And maybe I'll get something good in the oh my god, well, I got very lucky. I drew a 1 mana thing into the reserve, which means that I can play it and delay Dorothy for 1 more turn, making it difficult for my opponent to make plays. What are you? Oh, you're just a 4/3/3. Okay. Okay, so my opponent decides to commit this. Perfectly reasonable. And I think my opponent knows what I'm going to be doing. I can, however, still surprise my opponent because they don't know that I have a Dorothy in my hand. And this is some weirdness with this game. The same card can be different. I don't exactly know what that is. It's a thing. So this Dorothy, her thing only is from the hand that she sends a character to reserve. This Dorothy is both. It's the arrow instead of the hand, but she also costs more coming out of reserve. However, my opponent doesn't know that I have this. So what I'm going to do is play this thing here. My hope is that if my opponent chooses to play anything, that they play it in this lane, and then Dorothy steals this lane. I don't want my opponent to put anything else over here because I want this to be the thing that I Dorothy because it is anchored but fleeting. So if I Dorothy it goes to the graveyard, but if I leave it alone, it stays on the board. This thing is getting off the board. It's not anchored. So I want to trick my opponent into playing... Oh, you got another one of these. Jesus. Okay, well, that's fine. I am not in love with the fact that they have this in their reserve now. This is a different version of the card. It's only 1 boost, but it's cheaper. Okay, that's actually less terrible to deal with, I suppose. So here comes the surprise. My opponent thinks I'm going to play Dorothy from my reserve, but actually I'm going to play Dorothy out of my hand. I mean, not that that's that big of a deal, but... you know, it's something. So I still have Dorothy for the next round. Oh, and okay, I guess we're gonna see the tiebreaker, right? To be honest, I don't exactly know how the tiebreaker works. It has something to do with just like trying to generate as many stats as possible or something. I don't get it. I'm sorry, I didn't read those part of the rules. So like ties, meh, who cares? But we'll just play it. It's you know, it's nice that we get to see it. And, you know, if anyone wants to comment on how the tiebreaker stuff works. So see, our hero and companions reach each other at the same time. We flip this over. We got the tiebreaker thing. You see all these symbols here. I think you're just trying to generate stats as much as you can. I don't know. I actually don't know how this thing works. This is the kind of thing where if I had infinite time, I'd be like, board game geek, Sakarabru. How does that work during the tiebreaker phase? But this is just very inefficient. 4 stats for 7 mana is just not worth it. So we're going to send that over to mana. Hilariously, if that's just like completely idiotic and I could have like won the game if I had just played it. So my strategy here is going to be extremely simple. I will be playing, let's see, cheap stuff. I can play 4 mana. Crap. I have 2 and 2 3s. So unfortunately, I cannot play 2 things and then Dorothy. I can tap to make my opponent go first, play 1 thing, and then Dorothy. And so my opponent knows that I have the Dorothy. They know that I have it. So they obviously can play around it. They got this thing, which is this is not nearly as bad as the other one. The other one was for 2 mana, 4 boosts. This is only 2 boosts for 1 mana. So the proportions are the same, but it's not as insane. Okay, so my opponent just got a ton of stats. Yeah, that might be what I Dorothy. They spent 4 mana. They still have 6 left. They could still play everything here. All right, well, I guess this is 5 stats for 2. This is, what, 9 stats for 3. I guess I should play this. And yes, it's very unfortunate that after playing Dorothy, I don't have any mana to play anything else. So my card advantage, that I have more cards than my opponent, unfortunately doesn't actually work out in this case. Okay, well, nothing left for me to do. My opponent still has 4 mana. They still got this. They still have a card in hand. So I'm probably going to lose. I am fairly confident that Dorothy is just more value than playing out these 2 cards. Oh, hang on. This actually can just be played out again. Oops. My opponent wins. Yeah, they just play this back out. No, so I was wrong. I probably should have played my other 2 cards. But I think what's more likely is that my mistake happened earlier. If I had played my Chakarabru into mana instead of holding on to it in my hand, I would have had 10 mana here, and I could have played 10 things, or an extra card before playing Dorothy. As it is, I've got a pass. So now my opponent is beating me on stats, and I think that means that they win, especially because they get to do this on top of it. So a great game by my opponent, and also some instructive mistakes on my own part. We wouldn't have had a tiebreaker, and I would have won 1 turn sooner if I had played a 1 mana card instead of a 2 mana card on turn 2. But as it is, La Hunter, great play. Fun game. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and or subscribe, and I will see you again soon. Take care.